Today, we're going to dive into a really challenging perspective on Ukraine's war. And this isn't coming from some outside critic, it's from a Ukrainian philosopher named Sergey Datsuk. He lays out this framework that's, well, it's pretty bleak, and it forces you to ask some incredibly tough questions. Right off the bat, Datsuk does not pull any punches. His starting point is just this: we are in a dead end. Now, for him, this isn't just some dramatic freeze. No, this is a clinical diagnosis. And really, understanding what he means by this, that's the key to his entire argument. So, how do you even begin to unpack a claim that heavy? Well, we're going to break his thinking down into 5 main parts. We'll start with what he calls the mental catastrophe, and then look at what he means by the trap of the bubbles. After that, we'll get into his ideas on myths versus reality, the paradox he sees in leadership, and finally, his really startling conclusion about where a new future could even come from. Okay, let's jump into part 1, this idea of a mental catastrophe. For Datsuk, this is ground zero. It's the foundational problem, the very core of the dead end he's talking about. It's a huge claim about the state of the nation's collective psyche. So what on earth does he mean by this? A mental catastrophe is when a society's entire way of thinking, it just offers no way forward. It's a closed loop that, in his words, only leads to degradation. But here's the really critical, damning part of his diagnosis. An exit from inside this reality is impossible. The system, as it is, can't fix itself. And that idea leads him directly to his second point, what he calls the trap of the bubbles. Datsuk argues this mental catastrophe is being fueled by a really destructive kind of social division, something he calls bubbleization. Datsuk makes a really important distinction here. A schism is a split we're all familiar with. Think of a political divide where, yeah, the two sides are in conflict, but they're still arguing on the same shared bridge, so to speak. But a bubble? That's something else entirely. It's way worse. With a bubble, the bridge is gone. It's total separation. Each group is so isolated in its own reality that communication itself just stops. And the consequences of this, they're devastating for a society. Datsuk says you start losing your social ties, friends, even family, who are outside your bubble. They just kind of disappear from your life. Public debate dies because there's no common ground left to stand on. You literally can't bring yourself to talk to someone who thinks differently. Social mobility just grinds to a halt. And this part is crucial. Logic gives way to what he calls sentimental categories. It's no longer about what's socially practical, but who's the most hateful or who's the most righteous. And that becomes the new basis for power. This brings us to his third point, myths versus reality. Datsuk argues that this bubbled society becomes totally incapable of dealing with actual reality. Instead, it just relies on reinforcing its own foundational myths over and over again. Datsuk makes a really powerful statement here. He says, look, in peacetime, politics is the art of the possible, but in wartime, it has to become the art of the impossible. And to do that requires something amazing, not just managing the reality you have, but having the power to fundamentally change it. But here's the trap he sees. The political discourse, in his view, is completely stuck inside a reality defined by these old, established national myths. The heroic narratives, the historical figures. And by only operating within those myths, you can't build the new reality that the art of the impossible demands. All you can do is keep reinforcing the reality you already have, which he argues is the very one that's a dead end. So, if you're in this trap, who can possibly break the cycle? Well, that leads to Datsuk's fourth point, the leadership paradox, where he draws a very sharp line between two totally different kinds of leaders. On one side, you've got the political leader. This leader is successful because they're fantastic at summing up and embodying the myths and feelings of the people. They lead by riding the wave of the existing trend. But on the other side is the intellectual leader. This person doesn't ride the trend, they create a new one. They have to step completely outside of all the existing myths to build an entirely new reality, a new discourse. And Datsuk's big critique is that Ukraine has the first kind, but what it desperately needs is the second. And all of this, it's all building to his fifth and final point. This is where Datsuk really brings it all together. And it leads to a bleak conclusion and a highly unconventional path forward. He takes a direct shot at what he sees as the main national strategy, what he calls a strategy of endurance. For Datsuk, just holding on, just enduring, that's not a strategy for winning. It is, in his view, the ultimate expression of being in that dead end. And here it is, probably his most chilling statement. the climax of his entire argument. The strategy of endurance presupposes eternal war and slow dying. He's arguing that without a vision for a totally new reality, just enduring is basically choosing a slow, inevitable decline. It's a strategy to avoid losing today, sure, but it's not a strategy to win tomorrow. So, after this incredibly grim diagnosis, the obvious question is there a way out? Is there any path forward from this dead end he's described? Datsuk does offer one, but it's just as radical as his critique. His proposed solution is abstract, it's intellectual, and it's radical. Okay, so step one. You have to fully accept that there is no exit from inside the current system. Step two, a new reality has to be created from the outside. It can't come from the existing political or social structures. He suggests this new way of thinking has to be born in philosophy, in books, in intellectual circles that are completely detached from the current fight, maybe even created by thinkers in exile. It's basically a call for a fundamental external reset of the nation's entire operating system. And this leaves us with the massive question at the very heart of Datsuk's argument. It goes way beyond just winning a war or fixing a political system. It's about something much, much deeper. What does it actually take for an entire nation to look itself in the mirror, declare its current reality a dead end, and then find the courage to try and invent a new one from scratch?